Ever heard that some toys are more than just playthings? Tonight, we read diving into a story that will make you look twice at that old doll sitting on your shelf. This is the chilling tale of the Lububu Doll, a seemingly innocent toy that brought a nightmare into one family's home. It all started with a simple online purchase. A family, looking for a unique gift for their child, stumbled upon a small, handmade doll. Wheat teats, wide painted eyes, and a faint stitched-in smile. It looked utterly charming. They named it Lububu. Dendoliba, when it arrived, it was even cuter in person, fitting perfectly in the palm of a hand. The family placed it on a bookshelf in their child's room, thinking nothing more of it. That was their first mistake. A few days later, the mother was tidying up the living room when she noticed something odd. There, sitting on the mantelpiece, was Lububu. She was sure she had left it in the child's bedroom. Shrugging it off, she assumed her husband or her child had moved it. She picked it up and returned it to the shelf. The next morning, she found it on the kitchen counter, its little head tilted as if watching her make breakfast. A small, uneasy feeling began to creep in, but she pushed it aside. It was just a doll, after all. What could it possibly do? The strange occurrences didn't stop. Late, at night, when the house was silent, faint noises would drift from the child's room. A soft giggle, the sound of tiny footsteps on the hardwood floor. A barely audible whisper. The parents would check, only to find their child sound asleep, with Lububu sitting on the nightstand, its painted smile seeming wider, more knowing in the dim light. They tried to rationalize it. The house is old, they told themselves. It's just the pipes, the wind, our minds playing tricks on us. But then, their young child's behavior started to change. The child, who'd initially paid little attention to the doll, was now inseparable from it. They carried Lububu everywhere, whispering secrets into its cloth ear. One evening, as the mother was putting her child to bed, the child turned to her, their eyes wide and unfocused, in a voice that was raspy and eerily deep. A voice that was not their own. They said, "Lububu is hungry." The mother froze, a chill running down her spine. She asked her child what they meant, but they just blinked and smiled, their normal, sweet voice returning, as if nothing had happened. This became a recurring event. The child would slip into this strange persona, speaking with the unsettling voice, always with the same message. Lububu is hungry. It became clear that the doll wasn't just a toy. It had formed a dark, possessive bond with their child. The innocence of playtime had twisted into something sinister. The family's unease turned into genuine fear. The doll had to go. Their first attempt was simple. The father took Lububu, placed it in a trash bag, and drove it to a dumpster several towns away. He felt a sense of relief as he tossed it in. That night, they slept more soundly than they had in weeks. But the next morning, their relief shattered. As their child came down for breakfast, they were holding the doll, stroking its hair. It was back. There was no explanation. The doll was clean, with not a speck of dirt on it. Desperate, they tried again. This time, they decided on something more permanent. They built a small fire in their backyard barbecue pit and tossed the doll into the flames. They watched as the fire licked at its cloth body, expecting it to turn to ash. But the material wouldn't catch. It just sat there, unharmed, its painted eyes seeming to mock them from within the inferno. Frustrated and terrified, they doused the fire, retrieved the doll, and decided to bury it. They dug a deep hole in the furthest corner of their garden, placed Lububu in a locked box, and covered it with dirt. The following day, a package appeared on their doorstep. It was a simple brown box with no return address. Inside was the locked box they had buried, covered in fresh soil, and when they pried it open, there was Lububu, its smile unchanged. Tucked beside it was a small, tattered piece of paper with a single, chillin' phrase scrawled in what looked like a child's handwriting. "You coo and get rid of me." The family knew they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. They needed answers. The father started digging, trying to trace the doll's origin from the online seller. The trail was cold, the seller's account long deleted, but he found a small mention of a similar doll in a local history forum. It led him to the archives of a now-closed orphanage, a place with a dark and tragic history. There, he found it, a faded black-and-white photograph from the early 1900s. A group of somber-looking children stared back at the camera, and on the lap of a small, pale-faced boy sat a doll. It was undeniably Lububu. Further research uncovered the boy's story. He had died at the orphanage under mysterious circumstances. Some records said it was an illness, but rumors persisted of a terrible accident, a fall from a high window. The boy was said to have been an outcast, his only friend, the doll his mother had made for him before she passed away. The legend was that after his tragic death, his lonely and angry spirit latched onto the one thing he had left in the world. His doll. He was still looking for a friend, a family, and he would never let them go. With this horrifying discovery, the paranormal activity in the house escalated dramatically. It was no longer just whispers and moved objects. Lights would flicker violently before bulbs exploded. Doors would slam shut with such force that the walls would shake. Dark, fleeting shadows danced in their peripheral vision, always just out of sight. The family was living in a constant state of fear. Sleep became a luxury they could no longer afford. As nightmares plagued them, and the sounds of a childish laughter echoed through the halls at all hours, Lububu's presence became more aggressive. It would appear at the foot of their bed at night, its eyes seeming to glow in the dark. Once, the mother awoke to find it lying on the pillow next to her head, its cold, cloth face inches from hers. The doll wasn't just haunted, it was malevolent. The breaking point came on a dark and stormy night. Thunder rattled the house, and rain lashed against the windows. The power went out, plunging them into darkness. Armed with flashlights, the parents went to check on their child. They found the child standing in the middle of their room, completely still, facing the corner. The beam of the flashlight landed on Lububu, which was no longer sitting on the shelf. It was standing on its own, its head slowly turning to face them. In that terrifying moment, illuminated by a flash of lightning, its painted smile twisted into a grotesque, menacing grin. The air grew cold, and the deep, raspy voice filled the room, not from their child, but from the doll itself. Lububu is hungry, it rasped, and it's time to eat. They finally understood. The doll was alive, a vessel for a tormented and angry spirit. In a panic, the father grabbed a heavy crucifix from the wall and approached the doll, shouting for it to leave his family alone. The doll let out an unearthly shriek, a sound of pure rage and pain that vibrated through the entire house. The windows rattled, objects flew off shelves, and a powerful, unseen force pushed them back. It was a chaotic, terrifying battle against an entity they couldn't see, all centered on this tiny, smiling toy. The struggle raged for what felt like an eternity. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The wind died down. The house fell silent, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The power flickered back on. They looked to the corner where the doll had been. It was gone. They searched the entire house, every room, every closet, every dark corner. Lububu had vanished without a trace. For a while, there was peace. The strange noises stopped. Their child returned to their normal, happy self with no memory of the terrifying events, and the family began to heal. They never spoke of the doll again, hoping to leave the nightmare behind them, but the fear never truly left. They knew the doll wasn't destroyed, it was just gone. Months later, in a town hundreds of miles away, a young girl opens a birthday present from her grandmother. Inside the brightly wrapped box is a small, handmade doll with wide, painted eyes and a faint stitched-on smile. The girl hugs it tightly. "It's so cute," she exclaims. "What should I name it?" The doll sits in her arms, its smile fixed and unchanging, waiting. The curse wasn't over. It had just found a new home. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this spooky story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unknown. Stay safe, and maybe check on your old toys. You never know what's watching.